This virtual meeting is being live streamed as a public meeting. It will also be recorded and the recording subsequently made available via the Council's website. In addition, under the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulation 2014, other people may film, record, tweet, or blog from this meeting. Use of any such images or recordings is not under the Council's control. Please note the members of the public viewing this meeting via the live stream can only see the person who is speaking. Also, that it takes a second or so for Zoom to switch view to that person when they begin. Participants should please ensure that their microphone is muted when they're not speaking. I'm now going to formally confirm everybody being here. Tracy, are you here? Can you see and hear us okay?
I'm here, I can see and hear you, thank you.
Alan, can you hear, see us okay?
Just dropped out, yeah. He dropped out, came back, and then dropped out again. So he might be having trouble with connection.
Okay, thank you for that, Ed.
Oh, back.
Alan, can you hear us and see us okay? No, okay. Phil, can you hear and see us okay?
I don't think he's in the meeting, Chair.
Is he not?
I've not had apologies, but he doesn't seem to be in the meeting.
Okay, it's fine. Right. Councillor Draycott, can you hear and see us okay?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can see and hear okay.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton, can you hear and see us okay?
I can hear and see, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Capleton, can you hear and see us okay?
Yes, I can hear and see everybody, thank you.
Thank you. Peter, can you hear and see us okay?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can see and hear proceedings.
Thank you. Ian, can you hear and see us okay?
I don't think he's in the meeting, Chair. Pete, do you know if he's going to be presenting at all?
He is expected to present the budget report. I have just sent him an email with the link to the meeting, just in case he's looking for it at the moment. I'm happy to dip out, Chair, and give him a quick call if that would be helpful.
Yeah, should we just give him a little while to see if he responds first? Thank you. Ed, can you hear and see us okay?
Thank you, Chair. I can see and hear the proceedings.
Okay, good. James, can you hear and see us okay?
Chair, yes, I can see and hear proceedings.
Okay. Have I missed anybody else? I hope not.
Only little me.
John, I'm terribly sorry for all people. John, can you hear and see us okay?
Perfectly clear, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So that must be everybody. Apologies, we have David and Yasmin. I don't think the others have formally apologised, so we'll wait and see if they come into the meeting as and when. Right, the second item on.
Oh, that would be Ian.
It's Ian. Yeah. Are you there, Ian?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was a bit delayed. Hello.
Hi. Can you hear and see us okay?
So that's it. Well, I can hear you. What did you say? Sorry.
Can you hear and see us all okay?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry for the I just got to work out how to mute myself.
Right, okay. We'll carry on because yeah, you get the chance while we're doing the next item. Right, it's minutes of the previous meetings item on 10th of November. Can I ask each of you if you're okay with it, or do you have any questions or queries on this? First of all is Tracy. Can you hear me, Trace?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry, I'm just unmuting myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a couple of things. Oh, no, that was just a note for me. See what that says. Who is it? On the financial side of it, which is page 5. For it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullet down, because I wasn't at the meeting, so I do apologise for asking this question. I just didn't quite understand what it says about a reserve existed for financing the major repairs. Can that just be clarified for me, please, what that meant?
Ian, would you like to come in and respond? Can you hear me, Ian?
I need to unmute. Hello, sorry, I'm on mute. Could you just repeat what you said in the thing, please?
In the minutes,
Yeah.
on the 7th bullet down, it says a reserve existed for financial and major repairs. So I want to clarify, did it exist or is it existed? So we've not got it anymore. That's all it says in that bullet point. That's why I couldn't understand it.
No, let me just. What page are you on? Sorry, you're on the
5.
The minutes of the previous meeting.
Yeah, and it's under the heading Financial Business Plan Review, the output for modelling work. It's under that heading, and it's the bullet points at the beginning.
Chair, I can assist with this.
Right.
It's the reserve exists.
It does exist.
It does exist.
Because it does say in the minutes it existed.
Yes.
So yeah. So sorry, let me turn that off. Oh, sorry, it's Phil.
But I found the page. Oh, hello. Peter, do you know which paragraph it was on the page? I found the page.
Yeah, it's the heading is Financial Business Plan Review, output for modelling work, and it's
page 5.
Yeah, it's page 5 of the minutes, but it's actually page 3 of the it's page 5 of the printed minutes, but it's page 3 of the report.
Oh, that's why I can't find it. Yeah,
that'll be it. Yeah. So, and it's the 7th bullet point down. I think it relates to self-financing and repairs.
I can clarify as well. I think.
Yeah, okay. I think that's well spotted. That's well spotted.
It's a matter of
yeah. It's still.
The minutes were always in past tense. So.
Okay. It still exists. So yeah. I don't know if that needs changing or if it's okay. Yeah.
Right. Tracy, any more queries, questions? Trace? Can you hear me, Tracy?
It's on the mutey thing.
On mute, yes.
Sorry, Ed. Ed, can you send Phil a new invite to the meeting, please? He's struggling to get on.
I did just before we started. But,
yeah, so just send him another one. He's really struggling. That's why I answered the phone, by the way. So apologies. That's why I answered the phone, because it was Phil. So, yeah, there's a couple more things. Sorry to be a pain. Page 7. Halfway down, it says there is an action. Head of Strategic and Private Sector Housing to bring a paper to the board on the sheltered housing review. As that's gone on the work programme, has it?
Yes.
Right, okay, that's fine. And the update of the asset management strategy one as well. Is that's gone on the work programme as well?
That's on, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I wrote there. I might have to email somebody about that bit. And the one on page 9 as well, there's an action there. Has that been done?
Yes.
Whereabouts on page 9, Trace?
At the top.
Relating to?
It will be, it says Cabinet lead member for public housing to provide information in respect of the council bulky waste collection service.
Chair, may I respond? Chair.
Yes, sorry,
Yeah.
Peter, do.
Thank you, Trish, through you. Yes, a note was sent out when the minutes were distributed, so we did a covering note on the position then.
Oh, okay, I'll have a look at that then. Thank you, Peter.
Tracy, I can send that on to you. I've got it. I'll send
Thank you.
both copies.
Right, it's there's a little bit further down, and it says it was noted that when the council collected fly tipping from outside a council house, the cost came from HRH whereas if it's collected elsewhere, it was charged the general accounts. Now, I just want to ask a question on this because, sorry, I wasn't at the last meeting, but does that include, you know, if it's in an area where there's a block of flats, like where I live, Chapman Street, there's a big block and somebody just dumps it there, does that come out of the HRH budget or does it come out of a general account?
Yeah. Chair, through you, may I respond?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. So the housing revenue account pays into the contract, the contracts that we've got with cleansing and open spaces. So there's an internal recharge. So the answer is yes, it is paid for out of the housing revenue account. We also have a separate contract for the clearance of internal communal areas, that's paid for directly out of the HRA.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you for clarifying that. That's it from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, who is next? Excuse me. Sorry about this, I've lost my page. Where are we? Sorry, dropped. Okay, Sultan Tracy. Alan, is Alan there yet?
I am, yeah.
Oh, Alan. Welcome. We couldn't hear you before, so we didn't know if you'd joined us yet.
So I had to swap headphones. One of them works, one of them doesn't.
Right, so hooray,
The only mention is the fact that I did send my apologies on the last meeting by email that morning because I didn't expect I wasn't going to be there. Other than that, fine.
Thank you. So you're okay with the
Yes.
minutes?
Fine, thank you.
Okay. Phil's not there yet, is he? No. John, do you want to respond to the minutes that you've read, although you weren't at the meeting? Do you have any response in reading the minutes?
Not this time, Chair, but thank you for the offer.
Thank you. Councillor Draycott, the same, although you weren't attending the meeting, do you have any queries, questions regarding the previous minutes?
Yes, thank you, Chair. No, you're quite right. I wasn't at the meeting, so cannot agree the minutes, but I did find them very interesting. Quite a few issues there. My only question is the top of page 7, which Tracy may have answered, because I was interested in the 40 to 50,000 being spent on bulk collection now due to the charge being introduced. Did the paper that was sent later to members include any further information about that, or was there a breakdown of the money? If anybody could answer that first. If you've all received a note from James, what information was in that, please?
This went out as with the minutes. It's noted to come from myself. It didn't actually. I think it came from Peter or Ed, didn't it? In reality, but we can certainly forward you a copy of that email. That's no problem at all.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ponan. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Seaton, any questions or queries on the meetings, please?
No questions or queries. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Capleton, any queries or questions on last meeting minutes?
No, Chair, I read them as a sort of a background to try and find out what's going on, but I don't have any queries. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see who else. I think that's it, isn't it? Please forgive me if I've forgotten anybody. Anybody?
Declarations of interest, Chair, sorry. Did we do declarations of interest?
No,
Oh, that's
not yet.
We've not agreed the minutes.
We
yet,
haven't got
I don't
that
think.
far, Ed.
No.
You're rushing it. May I just bring up one point, although it's late asking the question, because I wanted to sort of take in Savills' report. It was very in-depth. Could I just ask a question? Reference Savills' report, I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that they are quoting tenants' rents are very low in comparison to others. Has anything been discussed or set in motion regarding, apart from the CPI, of uplifting the rents in the future? May I ask that? Is it Pete I would ask, or Ian?
Yeah, it would be probably either of us, but I'm happy to respond. Chair, it is correct that the benchmarking shows that the council's rents are significantly low, below the peer group, and also that means as well that we don't have as much surplus as well when you compare us to other local authorities. In respect of rent formula is set by the government, so we're not able to increase rent any further than beyond the formula.
So Chair, but can I add to that? Because in the budget proposals that are going to the meeting in February, there is a proposal to increase the rents. There is an increase due.
That is the CPI +1, is it, Mary, you're thinking of?
Yeah.
Which is, government-led, but I was thinking if there's any other increases apart from that. Any way that the CBC was thinking of uplifting the rent.
Right, yeah.
Just query, I'm a little bit concerned. I want to know for sure, because obviously it would, bring in a lot of income. So just asking.
Well, one thing we do, Trish, when there's a formula rent, and that's nationally set. Can you hear me? And obviously, then there's the rents that people pay, who have been there, and they get increased each year. Yep. And when the property becomes empty, if the formula rent is higher than the rent someone who's been a tenant for years has been paying, then that property gets moved to the higher rent. So that's been going on for probably about 15 odd years now. So when there's a churn of tenancies and things, when they sort of swap over, then there is a mechanism where the rents are going higher to that formula. We can't really set the rents particularly higher than that formula because we'd be going against social, the overall national rent strategy then, that the government set for everyone. And we'd start to get punished by housing benefit. So we wouldn't be getting housing benefit, would only pay up to the rent that you should be paying. And if you start setting the rents higher than that, they'd be clawing the money back from us, so they wouldn't be getting the benefit anyway, if that makes sense. Yeah. So there is a way of doing it, but one of the problems is a lot of the properties that are now being relet have already been moved to the higher level. So the actual number of properties that are at the lower rent are sort of lower than you might think. Yeah.
So may I just ask the question? The CPI +1, is that a normal rent increase yearly, or is that higher than normal?
No, that's been the way they've done it for the last couple of years. Only about a couple, the last 2 years. For the 4 years before then, it was was it CPI -1%? Pete? I can't remember. They were reducing it for. It
was just one. It was just minus.
Yeah,
it was just
I remember.
It's just minus, wasn't it? It was like a pay cut. But I think where it's happened at Charnwood, why we're lower overall, is back in the sort of late 1990s or early 2000s. There's at least 1 year where the council didn't increase either the council tax or the rents. That was like a decision at the time by the members. But that's obviously had a knock-on effect furthermore, because we're restricted on, in fact, we can't increase it by CPI +1%, but we're on a lower base than some of the other councils who would have upped it years ago. If that makes sense. So, so I think that's why it's happened originally. That helps.
Thank you so much for explaining.
Thanks.
curious, to be honest, why
Yeah.
they were lower. And I do
Yeah,
remember
that's the
Yeah.
main reason.
Yeah.
You know, without making like political points, but it was decided at the time. But obviously, it's not just for that year, and then the following year. If the following year it had sort of been adjusted backwards, you know, it would have been in the like lost that year's rent increase, but not of the other ones. But obviously, we don't do that, so the base became lower to start with. Yeah.
Okay, thanks ever so much for explaining. I shall stop. I won't worry now. Then it's just a simple thing, and it's something that possibly, you know, could be asked. Is sort of asked about rents. People are a bit concerned because of the situation, and they know, you know, the income is lower, and they're just asking the question because they're wondering if, because of it, it's going to be raised. And clearly, with the explained because of DWP and various issues, I see that it's not possible. But it's nice to be able to answer people when they ask. Thanks ever so much.
If I could just mention,
Thanks.
Trish, I think I'm glad you did mention, because a lot of people quite understandably don't sort of understand how these things work, and it is very similar, has been said, to the council tax at borough level and county level. We can't raise it by whatever we feel are limited by legislation and law. Although what I would say, speaking on a personal level, even if we could put it up by whatever the hell we wanted to, I would be concerned about doing that at a time when obviously fuel prices will be going through the roof and the cost of living as well. But yeah, as has been said quite rightly by officers, we are not legally allowed to do more than plus 2% anyway.
Thanks ever so much for that, James. I think everybody's reassured that's listening. It's just an important issue and a very, very difficult thing economically, full stop, isn't it? Okay.
Chair, may I ask through you to whoever answers, at what time in the year is the CPI set? Bear in mind that it is fluctuating quite considerably recently.
It's within the rules of how the council house rents are set. It's the September for the year before. So when we go on to the budget for next year, which starts in April, the rents have been calculated based on the September CPI, which is 3.1%.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the same every year. It's a 3. Well, it's not 3.1, but it's the same September month each year, so that doesn't change. Yeah.
I do apologise. Have I asked everybody? I've lost track who I've asked and who I haven't after all that in-depth conversation. Have I missed any tenants or any councillors for asking if they are okay with last meeting's minutes? Are we all okay and happy to accept them? Could I ask individually, do I need to, Ed, or the way I've spoken, is that acceptable? Can you hear me, Ed?
Yeah, unless anyone has any specific issues, you have asked everyone on the board.
I have more or less, yes.
Unless anyone else has any specific issues they want to raise, I think we can.
We're okay. Okay, thank you very much. We now go on to item 3, declarations of interest. All members will make a declaration at each meeting if they have an interest in any items of business on the agenda, which would affect them more than tenants or residents of the wardens affected generally. May I ask everybody if that being the case? Get the list out again. Tracy, any declaration on your behalf? Alan, any declaration on your behalf?
No declaration at all.
Phil's not there yet.
I am.
Welcome, Phil.
I can see.
Please say. Any declaration on your behalf? Say again.
Nothing to declare.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Councillor Draycott, any declaration on your behalf, please?
Nothing, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton, any declaration on your behalf?
Nothing to declare, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor.
Sorry, you
Capel-
lost me.
Sorry,
Sorry, you lost me.
ask Unity.
Okay.
Councillor Shush, now I'm trying to be grown up. Councillor Capleton, any declaration on your behalf? Tracy, any declaration on your behalf?
No, no declarations.
Right. Councillor Capleton, any declaration on your behalf?
Yes, no declaration on my behalf, Chair.
Thank you. Right, so we now go to item 4, Housing Capital Programme 22-23. Would you ask Peter to do, please, Pete?
Thank you, Chair. So this report sets out the Council's approach to investment in its housing stock for the financial year 2022-2023. And the board is requested to endorse the approach to that investment next year. Members of the board will have seen that the existing budgets for each area of investment are set out at Appendix 1. So the Council delivers replacement kitchen, bathroom and heating programmes, amongst other things. I'll touch on those in a few minutes. The report sets out that these items are replaced on a fixed life cycle basis. So what that means is when a kitchen reaches 20 years old, we replace it. When a bathroom reaches 30 years old, we replace it. Now, as a consequence of that, this leads to peaks in the number of bathrooms that need replacing some years, or the number of kitchens that need replacing, and that's because we've delivered programs in the past where we've delivered a volume of kitchens, and of course we come up for a year, and all of those kitchens then need replacing. There's been quite limited delivery this year. We have done urgent works due to the contract with Fortum Solutions Limited finishing partway through the year. And as a consequence of that, we've got a backlog of works. Now, the difficulty that we've got at the moment is that when we add this backlog of works into next year's programme, makes it too big to deliver in 1 year. And if you look at there's a table that I've put together on Appendix 2, and that shows that if we were to kind of add the backlog together with next year's programme, we'd end up with 388 kitchens to deliver and 422 bathrooms, and that's too many. It would be an unmanageable programme. So what the paper sets out is a proposal to deliver 200 kitchens and 200 standard bathrooms, and that would be manageable. On a positive note, the council does expect to have more contractors delivering works next year. So we're moving away from a model based on one managing contractor delivering all works to a model whereby we've got multiple contractors delivering multiple works. And members of the board may know that PH Jones has recently been appointed to deliver heating installations. We've currently got a tender out for replacement level access showers and adaptations, and a tender is due to be issued very shortly for kitchen and bathroom replacement. And I'll cover the position in respect to the procurement in the exempt report later on. The report also sets out that in addition to existing improvements to existing homes, there's also a sum of 1.5 million which will be invested in acquisition of new properties. So acquiring properties from the open market, the council will go out and buy properties in to meet housing needs. And the report also sets out that the work in improving estates and improving communal areas will also continue. There are also budgets included which cover the delivery of fire safety works, the installation of fire doors, and of course we will continue to deliver disabled adaptations. And Chair, just prior to concluding, there's a figure on page 13 that I just need to correct. It should read 9,244,000 rather than 9,214,200. A minor amendment, but important to note. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Does anybody have any questions or queries on Peter's report? Tracy, would you like to speak?
Yeah. First of all, can I ask, what is the lifespan of a shower? Is it the same as a bathroom?
Interesting point. No, is the answer to the question. In terms of a level access shower, No, it's not. We replace level access showers on a 15-year cycle rather than a standard bathroom, which is replaced on a 30-year cycle. I think in terms of the actual shower, if we just had a shower over a bath, let's say, then I expect that shower would probably need replacing before the 30-year period. But certainly, in terms of what we've got in the stock, the two most common types of bathrooms are standard bathrooms, level access showers. Standard bathrooms 30 years, level access showers 15 years.
Okay, and you only replace the showers if anything breaks, if it's over a bath?
Yeah, I would venture. I think I'd need to have a look at the component life cycle for that, but I'd say it's probably closer to the 30 years than it is to the 15. One of the reasons that we do with the level access showers, we tend to have difficulties with the floor, kind of, the wet surface degrading and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. On page 16, appendix 1, it says stock maximisation garages. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Yep. So there are some garage sites that are in poor condition, and so the intention of that budget is to improve those garages. Perhaps it might well include perhaps a re-roofing of the garage site, that kind of thing, in order to enable us to re-let them.
Okay. Now the doors, the replacement of the doors, are you replacing the new ones that have been put in that aren't too standard, or are you just replacing old ones?
Okay, so we appointed a contractor some time ago to do an assessment of all of the doors. So in the first instance, we're replacing those doors that kind of urgently need replacing. So we've categorized the doors. So it may well be a door that's damaged, or a door that perhaps our fire risk assessors have said you really need to replace that sooner rather than later. But it's expected that some of the doors that don't meet the standard will then be put into a program down the line as well. So we will be replacing them, but it'll be part of a planned program. And the way we're delivering that program is on a priority basis. So the doors that we've got category 1, 2, 3, 4 doors, and the ones that are number 1 will be done in the first instance, and in fact are being done already. It's already been worked on.
Yeah, thank you for that. Another question is, it says about the mobility scooter storage. Will that just be in sheltered housing?
No, that budget is available for spending general needs accommodation as well.
Okay, thank you. And my last question, sorry. So it says water closet on page 18. What is this?
Just a separate toilet.
All right, okay.
That's all it is. Yeah.
So should have known that.
Right, it's a good question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy. Alan, do you have any questions or queries on Peter's report? Can you hear me, Alan?
Yeah, sorry, getting the wrong mute button. No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Phil, have you any questions or queries on Peter's report?
No, thank you.
Thank you. John, do you have any questions or queries on Peter's report?
Yes, Chair. Peter, may I ask you, on the crime and disorder section, it says the Housing Capital Programme will positively contribute towards the achievement of the council's response, etc., etc., etc. How are the replacement of the front doors affected by the non-compatibility with the Lifeline system?
Is that the front doors at
yes.
sheltered accommodation?
Yes, Peter.
It's not an issue that I'm particularly familiar with, but I'd be happy to have a conversation around it after the meeting.
Right, fine.
Okay. Are we next? Councillor Draycott, any queries or questions on Peter's report, please?
Yes, please. One question. With the change over to no longer one contractor and several contractors, and they're all doing different works, how does that get coordinated with a tenant and a household? Is it, is there some kind of timetabling going to take place so they don't all turn up on the day, sort of thing? Just that question, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it's a good question. Thank you. I guess I will go ever so slightly out of scope. I think one of the things about moving to additional contractors is we may well need some additional project management resource in order to coordinate this. I think the vast majority of the programs that you see here, because of the way programs have been delivered in the past, it's not a whole house approach. So we're not going along to a property. We're not doing the kitchen, bathroom, heating system. Generally speaking, all at the same time. It tends to, it's more so because of the way things have been delivered that we go back in year 10, for example, to do we go back 1 year to do a bathroom. We go back 4 or 5 years later to do the kitchen when that reaches its birthday. So I don't perceive it to be perhaps a greater challenge as may well be. A particularly great challenge in that respect. There are some properties, of course, that require more works doing. So it may well be, but these would tend to be the exception. So if we had a property whereby there are multiple things that needed to be done, the project surveyor would coordinate that work.
If I can come back, Chair, I saw it rather a case of each company individually, just coincidentally timetabling X Chapman Street to have works done to it, and that could all coincide at the same time. So how do we prevent that happening? Was my actual question, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think what I can do is I can speak to the Principal Officer of Investment and Programme Delivery just to see how the programmes are overlaid over each other, because we'd have start and end dates for each individual property. So I will check to see what's happening in that respect, and happy to pick up an action through that meeting just to confirm the position.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
May I ask, Peter, that you would sort of let us all know on that? I think it's quite an important issue on that one.
Yes, happy to send a note out, Chair, with the minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Councillor Seaton, do you have any queries or questions on Peter's report?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You've grown your hair longer. Looks nice. Councillor Capleton, do you have any queries or questions on Peter's report?
No questions, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have I asked everybody or missed anybody? Thank you. May I just ask one question, Peter? On the one that's where Tracy brought up for the stock maximisation garages, I'm a little concerned that you've got a budget like that with the fact that garages are actually under review for deciding what you're going to do with them or not. Could you?
Yeah, certainly. The review requires further development, but I think there are some garage sites that are well occupied, well used, unlikely to be developed. So we can undertake an assessment in that respect. I guess as I also think that there are instances where it may well be that garage doors need replacing, that kind of thing. And actually, I kind of feel that if we've got kind of incumbent tenants in those garages, then to a degree of a responsibility to do that. So be an assessment made at the time.
That's true. You have to see both sides of the coin, don't you? What is best, at the time for, possible tenants and current tenants. Thank you very much, Peter. Okay, are we all happy? Any more queries?
Yes, please.
Phil?
Yeah. With regard to garages, there isn't one, I believe, that's usable at Fielding Court. So will they be replaced or will they be knocked down?
Peter, would you like to?
Yeah, certainly. There's a garage site review that's currently being led on by my colleague, Alison Simmons, the head of strategic and private sector housing. Some initial work's been done. So, but this was quite some time ago. It's late 2019. Of course, COVID's kind of got in the way, and we're picking things back up at this current point in time. And all of the garage sites had an initial kind of an assessment to see whether or not the site would be appropriate, perhaps suitable for redevelopment, or is it well occupied? Does it not necessarily lend itself to redevelopment, that kind of thing? So I'd be happy to have a look at the initial view in respect of Fielding Court and just field back to you. There's no decision's been made, but I could certainly give you a little bit of a feel.
And the main worry with our garages, and that's drug taking. They use them for drug taking. They use them for prostitution. So obviously they either want to be secured or removed. then we can get rid of those problems.
Happy to have a look at that, Mr. Hudson. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, may I ask, are there any more queries and questions on Peter's report?
No.
We
Yeah,
all
can I just-
happy?
Can I just ask one more question?
Yes, of course.
It does say in the report about the stock conditions isn't fully up to date. I can't remember where I read it, but I did read it. I just wondered. So my question is, if we're not sure if the stock condition is up to date, how do we know how do you know if a bathroom or a kitchen is ready for refurbishing?
Peter, would you like to?
Yeah, so there are some aspects of the data that are actually fairly complete, and kitchens and bathrooms and heating systems is that data. I think it's fair to say that we've kind of got gaps in other areas of the data, things like soffits and fascias and things like that. So you're right, the stock condition survey is planned this year. It's likely to be a 20% representative sample survey, and so the purpose of that is to update the system and also to check the assumptions that we've got in the business plan as well.
I just think if you're doing a 20%, there's a lot of people that have put their own kitchens and bathrooms in and stuff like that, that will be missed off the list, and put their own things in. It's just when they move out, you've still the CBC has still got to do that. So that's my concern, is making sure that there is the money to do that.
Yeah, I think certainly the suggestion that we had from Savills is that 20% would give us a really good, a really good feel for the stock, and that we could accurately base our assumptions on. I guess the alternative is, I guess, surveying 5,000 properties rather than 1,000 properties.
Yeah.
But the advice and recommendation is that we do 1,000, and that would be representative.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Are we all okay on Peter's report?
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question on that, Peter? Sort of going further on. As regards the budget, would there be money in the budget to cover that once the survey has been completed?
So it's anticipated that when the stock condition survey is completed, the stock data will be fed into the council systems, and then if there's additional work required or less work required, then the 30-year plan, investment plan, and the 5-year plan will be updated as a result of following the stock condition data kind of being fed back into the council system.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Just a simple question, but if we know from the start, we know what's going on, don't we? Thank you very much. So I now know you're doing the next item for the HRA. Would you like to give us a report on that, please? Is it yourself or is it Ian?
Myself, or
Hang on a second, have I read it wrong? I've probably got it all wrong. Hang on.
Sorry, before we move on, can we just check that the board are okay to endorse the recommendations on the report, to endorse, I think it said, let me double check. Yeah, if the board are okay to endorse the approach.
May I ask us, anybody got a query or question other than accepting an endorsement for Peter's report?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you.
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you.
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you.
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you. John?
Agreed, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil?
Agreed.
Sorry, David. Even Phil, sorry.
Agreed.
Thank you. I've missed somebody. Hang on a sec.
Agreed, Alan.
Alan, sorry, missed you.
Agreed.
Apologies.
Agreed.
Yes, so we do endorse Peter's report. Thank you, Ed. So apologies, Ian. It is now.
No, That's fine,
Your
don't worry.
report, sorry.
That's fine, don't apologise. This is the basically the consultation for next year's draft budget, which goes from April to March. This 2022. Let's see. I mean, we've talked about the capital side of this. I mean, this report and the budget for the HRA includes the how the revenue finances the capital programme, and we've already talked about the rent increase. Just trying to think what we can talk about. It's I'm not sharing the screen, am I? I mean, overall, there aren't any service pressures or savings compared with previous years. So it's pretty much over the last few years, Peter and Landlord Services has been it's been rationalising the service from the days of CNH and so on. So we've got more of the establishment of what's required for now. The rent increases are really in line with the government guidance. And basically, the main headline figure really is that based on the draft budget, there'll be £1.9 million taken out of the HRA financing fund, which is like a separate fund, to help finance the capital programme for next year, to get up to that £9 million that Peter was just discussing. We're just taking some money out of the balances to cover that. Beyond that, we've been doing it at a break-even basis, basically, so the surplus and deficit. I suppose if the capital programme was lower by that 1.9 million, we wouldn't be taking it out of the reserves, and it would be completely break-even. So it's it comes out of the financing fund, which is basically previous years' surpluses sort of put together into a separate reserve. Simon Jackson, the Section 151 officer, who's basically the Director of Finance at Charnwood, recommends £110 property to keep into the working balances, which is where we get the £604,000 at the end of the year for. That's just, there's no right or wrong for that, but that seems to be like a comfortable amount of balances to keep. So basically you've got about £110 to spend on each property, come a crisis or something like that. So if there's any questions or anything, I'm happy to transfer any. I've not really prepared a speech. No.
Right, Tracy, do you have any questions, queries to Ian?
Yes, please. Sorry, I needed something to just bring me sugar level back up. Apologies.
Shall I come back to you?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Shall I find out what I'm doing?
Alan, do you have any questions or queries to ask Ian?
None whatsoever, thank you.
Okay, Phil, do you have any questions or queries to ask Ian?
None whatsoever, thank you.
John, do you have any questions or queries to ask Ian?
None, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Draycott, do you have any questions or queries to ask Ian?
Yes, please, Chair. With the increased costs for the HRA regarding bulk collection because of the charges being introduced, has it been considered because the council's general revenue budget makes quite a profit from the new charges? So has it ever been discussed that some of those profits from the general revenue budget should be transferred to the HRA to cover the new cost that it's having to address in its budgets? Thank you, Chair.
Bulk collection, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any specifically factored into the budget. We do a recharge sort of back from the HRA to the general fund reflecting, certainly for grounds maintenance. I think remember if there's a proportion for environmental health, which is like the rubbish collection, for about 80 grand a year, which basically, because not all of the council estates are council estates anymore with right to buys and things, there is a percentage. It's based on the original number of properties the council had before right to buys, and then the amount that have been sold over the last 30, 40 years, how long it's been going on, and then that becomes sort of the costs are in the HRA, but then there's a credit of about 80 grand that goes then back into cost in the general fund. And I think environmental health is part of that. It's mainly grounds maintenance, to be honest, but there's a proportion of the refuse. I don't think there's anything, I can't pinpoint anything specific for this one policy, but it is reflected in that. There is a calculation. It depends on whether the costs that get recharged into the HRA, include that or not. I'd have to investigate and let you know, to be honest.
Chair, if I may, there was a paper that went to scrutiny not so long ago about a review of the bulk collection charges, and I can't remember the exact figure, but as a result of the charges, there's been quite a considerable income to the Environment Department who deals with it. And I don't really see why the HRA should have to be paying out, possibly it seems like quite a lot of money out of its budget, and that it should benefit somehow with the increased income that's coming in from it. So my question was, has there ever been a discussion about any of that increased income being shared with the HRA account?
Yeah, we'd need to get back to you at maybe the next meeting or something if that becomes what the mechanism is. I'd need to talk to my colleagues in the accountancy department. I don't do the bulk collection counting, so I wouldn't know how that bit's been done, to be honest.
I think, Councillor Draycott, I think that your inquiry is that we have had an increased cost, I think, in terms of some, over the past couple of years or so in respect of estate maintenance. So we have a contract where we pick up items from internal communal areas. We've not been 100%, able to determine that there's kind of some kind of causal link between a change in bulky refuse collection and then the increasing cost just there, because of course we had lockdown in the middle and perhaps people were less likely to go to the tip, all that kind of thing going on. But I'm not sure whether we would be able to, whether we'd be able to kind of, justify, or whether even it's technically or legally viable to kind of, to say, well, we think we've had an increased cost here, so can the general fund kind of subsidise the, pay the HRA back? I suspect it's probably not technically possible. I suspect it may well not be evidenced either as well. But we're happy to take it away and respond. Am I correct in interpreting your inquiry?
Yeah, because it seems to me left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and there needs to be dialogue in the middle, because the issue about increased fly tipping or large items being left, particularly in the bottom of the flats, which is a fire hazard, started with that charge being increased. It wasn't necessarily just because of the pandemic. So I think it could be evidenced, right? And I just think there needs to be a dialogue, because the tenants are losing out because of the increased cost to the HRA. So I'll leave it there. But if you would, Peter, if you could take it away and just see if there could be some dialogue. I know they'll hold on to that money as hard as they can, but I think it's worth asking for the record. Thank you, Chair.
Certainly, there has been a dialogue, because I did discuss actually with the head of cleansing and open spaces that
he said no.
It wasn't a financial conversation. It was just I said that we'd made a commitment to bring back a report back to the HMAB around has there been any increase in fly tipping? And whilst I know how much we've spent with our contracts in respect of internal communal areas, at that point I was actually looking for data to see if we could support it, but we've just not got that data. So we have been talking about it.
Okay.
I think the two reports that we have, I think we brought 2 reports back to the HMAB in respect of it, and we weren't able to kind of 100% say, you know, there's a link. I think the first report we took, I don't recall exactly, but there was just no, from memory, and I'd need to double check. I think it actually showed there was less rubbish. So, you know, but that report was taken when we were in lockdown, so we kind of couldn't really draw a clear, you know, there was that lockdown was a big factor there that I think would make it really difficult for you to draw conclusions. I think it is fair to say that we have spent more on the estate maintenance contract, but again, I'm not sure whether we were able to, you know, kind of pin it down and say, yeah, it's because of that. But in any event, happy to take away your inquiry and come back. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Peter, would you mind letting us all know on that? It's something I've queried with, I forget his second name, Matt.
Bradford.
Yeah, that's him. I've had a couple of emails from him, and I am, like you, Mary, a bit concerned about it, and a little bit concerned about the procedure for tenants. They do have what I consider a lot of questions to be asked if they're on benefits to get, you know, a better price for them, a more substantial amount, you know, for them to pay.
Yeah.
Which I'm not very happy at all, because I don't actually think it's very, I don't think it's acceptable.
If I could just add for information, if there was a genuine concern from some members about the charge impacting on people with low incomes or benefit right,
Yes.
and it was agreed by Cabinet, and I think the words, I'll quote them, are, in exceptional circumstances, if people can't afford, then the items will be removed free. So I don't think that has actually got out very much. So if you know of anybody, right, then if they ring in and report it and say they cannot afford to remove it themselves, by rights, it should be removed. But maybe that needs testing a bit more.
Yeah, I'll email you, Mary, and also send you copies of what I've had.
Thank you.
To give you more of an idea, I've got 2 or 3 emails I've had from Matt, and also one from James.
Yeah.
So it might help you too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me asking again, have I asked everybody if there's any queries and questions on that report, please?
You haven't asked me, and I haven't got-
Apologies. When we get talking,
Sorry.
I do apologise.
That's all right. But I have got a comment to make, which is on the last topic. I've had 3 of my tenants in Bermston, and they've applied for the hardship fund, as in to remove their bulky waste, and it's gone through quite easily. So.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. That's really worth knowing. Thanks so much. So have I asked everybody, we're all okay with Ian's report? No queries, no questions? And sorry, Phil, please.
On Chapman Street, you've got separate housing with the Housing Association, Miriama House. They're always dumping a lot of waste outside. So they're not contributing in any way, shape or form to the council. It's going to the Housing Association, and we're picking their waste up. Every time somebody moves in or out, it's dumped outside.
Right. Peter, may I ask, who would Phil get in touch with to sort that problem out?
I think it's best. I think it's. Am I right, Phil, in saying that the suggestion is that the tenants for Miriama House are dumping rubbish on housing revenue account land, and then we're going along and clearing it up? Is that? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think it's probably best if I ask the tenancy and estate management officer to get in touch.
I know Sally's been talking to them, and they've got absolutely nowhere with Miriama House. They're not. The Housing Association don't cooperate in any way, shape or form. They've been asked about contributing. I know that the leaseholders on Chapman Street were made to pay for that tarmacking that was done, and yet the majority, every single the car that goes to Mariana House crosses over there, they didn't pay a penny. And of course, they're a bit upset about that. So Mariana House is causing us a lot of expense and we're getting nothing back from the Housing Association.
Yeah, I'm happy to have a conversation with Sally in respect of it if it sounds like she's already engaged. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are endorsing Ian's
No,
report.
can I ask questions?
Oh, sorry, Tracy, missed you.
Forgot
Would you
me,
like
didn't you?
Sorry about that.
On page 21, it says the average weekly rent charge with an increase of 4.1. Is that the rent with the service charges or without the service charges?
Without, because that's
Without.
just the rent.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's
Oh,
just
yeah, I've just looked into what I was saying earlier. I can't see off with the calculations that the recharge from the back to the general fund includes sort of environmental things. It looks like it's more just maintenance of grounds maintenance. I might be wrong about that, but I don't want to mislead you thinking it's being charged. I can't quite tell with the headings on the computer system, to be honest, what's included in the contract and what isn't, because it's not an area of work I directly do. Yeah, but I think Peter said we'll look into that.
I just clarify from my understanding. So we're talking about people who fly tip on Housing Revenue Association land, who may or may not be as tenants, but we pick the bed up because it's in our land. Is that's the people we're talking about? Yeah. We do. I know we had a conversation about this. God, was it October last? I can't remember. It was that end of sort of autumn last year. So yeah, it's something I'll obviously have a talk to my colleagues about as well. Obviously, if it's fly tipping elsewhere, then it would be obviously the normal account to pick up the bill.
Yep.
Thank you, James. Peter.
Chair, if I may, just in respect of the charges for collection of waste at HRA properties, we currently pay through our cleansing and open spaces team. We pay for 4 hours a week for Serco to go round and clear up fly tipped items. Yeah, that's the position.
Thank you, Peter. Does anybody have any more questions or queries? Tracy?
I've still got questions, sorry. On page 22, where the figures are, it says council tax recharge. Is that for empty properties?
Are you looking at? I've got a different numbered system. Are you looking at table 1?
Table 1, yeah.
I can't see it. It's just a yeah. Okay. So what are you asking? The 10 grand on the council tax recharge?
Yeah.
That figure.
Is that for voids?
No, that's income. There's a couple of sheltered units, about 4 or 5, that some of the bed sits in them are classed as one property rather than individual properties. So when they share like communal toilets and things like that and showers, so they pay one council tax, those properties within them. I think Sorrel Court's one of them, for example. They pay one council tax bill and then that's recharged via a service charge to those tenants only. That helps. Yeah, there is the one you were asking about, that is a charge to the HRA. It's the bulk of, where there's one, the third line down where it says rents, rates and other charges, and there's £291,000 there. The bulk of that does include the other side of that 10. So some of that will relate to those properties, but the bulk of that is the empty properties where the HRA has to pick up the council tax because of the fact that they're empty. And I think we used to get 6 months exemption, but now we only get 1 month or something. So the amounts being charged have gone up quite a lot over the last few years. Yeah.
It seems a lot for void properties, if it is void properties. So and that's so yeah. Thank you, Ian, for clarifying that for me.
Right. Are there any more questions or queries on Ian's report? No, are we all happy to endorse the budget in the report without any comments or suggestions or anything coming forward? Thank you. It's endorsed then, as far as we're concerned. Okay, the next item is
Okay.
questions.
Yeah. So any,
Okay.
okay, yeah, thank you.
Thank
I
you,
shall leave
Ian.
now, if that's okay. Thank you.
You sure? Thank you so much.
No worries.
Hang on a sec, I am lost. Yeah. Found it. Questions from members of the board. Are there any other questions? Other than what's been asked and are forthcoming from the various officers? Or is there anything else, other questions anybody would like to ask with a view to getting an answer to themselves after the meeting?
Not this time, thank you.
Didn't catch that. Is it a no?
Moment, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. If there's no more, then can we go on to item 7, work programme? Yeah. Is there anything that anybody would like to add to the work programme other than what we have? No,
Can I
no.
just say, Trish,
Yeah, feel free.
it was discussed about in the last minute, so it was discussed at the last minute,
Yeah.
about talking about the age of lettings, so that there's certain places where you've got to be a certain age, but
Yeah.
then I think there's voids that are empty for a long time, and I think somebody was asking for it to be discussed or for it to come to the meeting so that can, you know, we can clarify what that is and stuff like that. I think somebody might have been asking for that. That's not been put on the work programme. Can that be put on?
To be sure, could you note that for us, please, Ed?
May I clarify, Chair?
Yeah.
Chair, it's not expressed in the same terminology. We've got it down as redesignation of stock. It's
Right.
it's scheduled for March 21. I know that the head of strategic and private sector housing is considering the data in that respect. My colleague, I'm not sure whether it'll be ready for March, but I know that it's certainly in the pipeline. Anyway.
You do mean 22, don't you?
So thank you. Yes.
All the dates are wrong.
Yes. Thank you.
Good. I thought I've missed a whole year then. Well, I think
You're all right. I'll probably be saying 2021 till March, I think, Councillor.
It is written down as 21. So you didn't get that wrong. But they all need updating.
The other thing, the STAR survey, I know that was brought to the September meeting last year. How often is that done?
Done every 2 years, I think, or possibly 2 or 3. Apologies, Chair. I don't exactly recall, but it is on a periodic basis. And we have got the draft. We have had the draft through as well, so we should be in a position to consider that in March.
In March, okay, that's fine. Because I just thought it said it's scheduled. So I just wondered what was the update with that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can I just ask? We have got the fencing policies to also go on the work programme for March. Looking at the amount of that would go on the agenda, we'll be here till about 10 o'clock in March. So I think we've got to try and forward some on, I think. I think 10 o'clock's a bit.
Shall me and you have a discussion about that, Trish, and then have a meeting with...
Well, the only thing is we need to find out if anything's going to Cabinet before we forward it.
Have a meeting with Ed and Pete then.
Yeah.
I think that would be better. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Vice. Yes, I think that would be a really good approach.
Yes. The fencing policy has already been put off though since November, hasn't it?
Sorry, say again, Councillor Seaton.
The fencing policy was supposed to be looked at in November and then again January.
Yes.
And it's not been, so.
I totally agree. I have noted that on my paper. That's why, to be honest, if possible, I'd rather take something forward that's already on the work programme forward and put the fencing policy on, definitely on for March.
Thank you, Chair. The policy has been drafted. I think the intention was for it to go to CHRF in the first instance. I'm not sure whether it went to the last.
It did.
Yes.
Did it? Brilliant.
Yeah, it went on Monday.
Good. So it sounds
So-
like we'll be in a position to consider it then, Chair, at the March meeting.
Yeah, so I think if we can have a look, see, you know, cabinet wise and what's what at our meeting, Peter and Tracy, we'll see what we can do. Is that all
Yeah.
right, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've
okay,
got any,
thank-
you know, if you've got any queries or on the walk programme you want something put on, please let us know. Please let Ed know, and Ed can forward it to us and Peter to see whether it's acceptable.
Okay, so I think the next item on the list is the exempt item, which is,
So do we need to turn the live off,
we
Trish?
do, yes, I'm just checking.
There's a second, just going to.
Yeah, we've done the outcome on everything, so yes, please.
So you do need to propose that you exclude members of the public.
Hang on a sec. Oh, yes, I've just spotted it. Thank you, Nikki. Right. Propose to exclude members of the public from the meeting during the consideration of the following item on the grounds that it will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 3 and 5, part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972. And it is considered that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Could somebody second that for me, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, everybody. We have numerous seconds. Thank you very much.